Welcome to the Bookman's Corner. I'm your host, Lois Lindstrom. Thank you for joining us. Our book topic today is artificial intelligence. Recently, Tesla and SpaceX CEO Elon Musk stated that artificial intelligence, or AI, is humanity's biggest risk, even going so far as to say it could cause World War III. He took his caution to another level in early October 2019 by noting that advanced AI will be used to manipulate social media. The book under discussion today is titled The Artificial Intelligence Contagion: Can Democracy Withstand the Imminent Transformation of Work, Wealth, and the Social Order? It was written by Professors David Barnhizer, a professor of law at Cleveland State University, and Daniel Barnhizer, the Bradford Stone Faculty Scholar at Michigan State School of Law. So glad you're both here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I would like to say I'm very curious, why would two law professors write a book about artificial intelligence?
Well, partly it's because artificial intelligence, the impact of artificial intelligence is not just technological.
Okay.
It really goes to how do we order our society when we're facing such a potentially massive change in every aspect of society. How do we work? How do we play? How do we interact? How do we do any type of economic exchange where it's not just human beings in the mix now, it's also an intelligence that is outside. And I'm not talking just about an artificial general intelligence, a machine that thinks for itself, but even just about robotics and automation and algorithmic controls that can order how the decisions are made without any human input at all. I think law is actually a really good way to focus on this issue.
Well, it just amazed me to read that you think artificial intelligence is more important than conversations about climate change or terrorism or the threat of pandemics or world poverty. Why?
In saying that, it's not undermining or demeaning any of those other very critical issues. It's that artificial intelligence and my particular care, surveillance, total surveillance societies, and job destruction, the way it's going, will shred our Western cultures and our rule of law and from the inside out.
Oh my gosh, well, your book is a real page turner. I mean, there's so much information there about the subject. I mean, do you think that artificial intelligence, which is now available in our world, is offering economic efficiencies that reduce the operating and labor cost of productive business activities? I mean, isn't there a lot of positive things to say about artificial intelligence?
The positive, yes, absolutely, in certain specific niches of activity, no question about that. And is it enhancing productivity and efficiency? Absolutely.
Yes.
And that's the threat, because investors will then take it and companies will take it and use it as a justification for replacing human workers. They use a rhetoric of saying, well, this is just to supplement human workers, but that's not the way it really works in general. So you can increase productivity, but at the same time you're doing that, you're eliminating human workers.
Well, your book makes a lot of points in that area. I mean, obviously, robots are not well liked in some places. I mean, there was a story recently in the UK where office workers deliberately destroy the robots in their area. I mean, is that going to be a problem in the future?
I think that anytime you have people who are looking at a disruption of everything they know, you lose your job. And someone simply says, it's time to retrain. What happens if there's nothing you can retrain to? What happens if you are asking someone, for example, to shift from truck driving to riding in a truck and being a customer service representative at either end of the transaction? That may not be a job that you can do or want to do.
Yes.
The jobs also may not be there at the end. So what happens when you have a society where the people who control the ability to produce wealth, the people who control the ability to produce the necessities of life, they have everything that they need, and yet more and more as those necessities are produced outside of human endeavors, the human beings who used to do that work are being displaced and are being told, it's time, this is just part of the cycle of creative destruction, there will be something for you later.
Well, how soon will this be happening, you think? Do you think it'll be happening in the next 5 years or next 10 years? Or how soon will this happen?
I think it's happening now. We're already seeing massive job displacements in certain industries. and the trend will only accelerate.
Well, like which industry do you?
Are seeing replacement of in industries such as customer service, in terms of can we replace a customer service representative with a chatbot. We see it in terms of in the financial industries already, where decisions are being made by algorithmic controls and expert systems.
So if I'm on the phone complaining about something, I might be talking to a robot, right? I mean, I might not be talking to a real person.
That's right.
We're definitely seeing that in the text, when you're chatting in text already. People are using chatbots to replace humans, and that's efficient. We like that. We don't even see that it's happening because our problem gets solved and it's easy and it's cheap for the producer. But as time goes, as the ability of AI to respond to voice inputs sounding like a human being,
they'll be much more sophisticated. It'll be
Yes.
just really amazing. Well, you know, some Swedes have jumped into the AI contagion by having the computer chips implanted under their skin
Yes.
to improve the quality of life. I mean, what is your opinion on this procedure?
Well, I am against that, just completely. But I don't want anything put into my body that doesn't belong there. But the reality is, it isn't just the Swedes. That Swedish company was negotiating an agreement with a company in the UK for do the same thing for 20,000 of that company's employees. You see right now in the US, people just passing by. We will have that very shortly, because you can pay things. You can go up to a counter and
So
they do
you think people will do it here?
Yes.
You think
Yes.
just because
It's convenient, it's trendy, it's cool, it's chic. And I do want to add one thing. As the system produces more and more cheaply, but they get rid of people, or the earnings as they have been are flat or declining for regular workers, or they're on public assistance. We're a consumer society.
Yes.
There's a trap by having ultra efficiency on one side in terms of productivity, and then reducing the ability of consumers to actually buy the things you're producing.
Exactly. Well, I read in your book that MIT has developed a 3D printer that can inexpensively print a 400 square foot home in less than 24 hours. That was, to me, it just sounded fantastic and mind-boggling. How does this work? Can you describe for our viewers how this works?
Well, the Russians did that too, but go ahead, Dan.
So all this is an extension of 3D printing that we're familiar with in every day now. 3D printing allows you to take not an ink like we would see on a piece of paper, but rather take a resin or a polymerized resin and lay down thin layers in a specific pattern, so that as the printer makes each pass over the item being created, it layers on another level of material.
But here we're talking about building a house. I mean, we're not using bricks then, we're using concrete? What are we using to build a house?
We can be using concrete, but there are also robotic systems that are actually able to replace human bricklayers and lay bricks accurately and cheaply.
And so this could be far cheaper than what we're doing now in terms of building homes, right? I mean, maybe we could get rid of the homeless situation with these mass-produced homes.
That is one of the possible short-term benefits of AI. Again, going back to production cost, AI lowers production costs, and automation lowers production costs. And so we have the ability to reduce the cost of producing a home, but again, who is going to buy that home? We can ask, even going back to Henry Ford, that was the basic question he was asking in the Model T. I have to make sure workers have wages so that they can buy my stuff.
Right. So yes, exactly. And then you wrote in your book that Japan and China are developing robot caregivers in companies for their elderly. I mean, I guess China's one-child policy and Japan's lack of children have meant that they are short on young workers. I mean, how are the elderly in Asia feeling about being only taken care of by robots?
Well, every report suggests that the Japanese are very happy about it.
Oh, really?
Because they need it's a companionship. They're working, various developers are working on empathic.
But they're having a companionship with a machine.
Yes.
But that doesn't matter?
No.
Wow.
Remember, there are sex robots. It's a real expanding thing.
Yes.
It's supposedly going to be a $8 or $9 billion a year industry in the very near future. They're spreading all over the world. And they have brothels in Thailand and other
Yes,
places where
yes.
they're doing that. They are deliberately developing systems that mirror or mimic human empathic behavior. Plus, old people who have nobody else who really care about them, they're happy to have
Somebody to talk to. Yes, somebody.
and you know, you talk to Alexa, okay? Somehow, I have to discipline myself not to call Alexa she.
Yes, yes.
I keep saying it.
It's in it. That's
It's
right.
not a person.
That's amazing. It's amazing. Well, you know, the biggest AI supporters in Japan are they say that you can create an IQ level of 10,000 in the next 30 years. I mean, this compares to Einstein's genius IQ of 200. I meant to say an IQ of 10,000. So you wrote it's both frightening and exhilarating, but people like Stephen Hawking, Elon Musk, Microsoft's Bill Gates, and others are very concerned. They say that these kind of systems could end humanity. What do you think? I mean,
I think they're right. I mean,
wow, they're right?
Yeah, I mean, think about it. The person who did the 10,000 IQ thing is the head of SoftBank, which is a very big development in computer applications, Masayoshi Son. And he is the one who said 10,000 IQ, and you will not believe this, but a number of the people are saying, you know, how high the IQ goes. And if you are talking about not a human intelligence, but an intelligence that is so much faster, broader, more detailed than us, and learns from examining what humans say on the internet and experience and news. Think about what those things will decide about us, because they're doing self-learning. These are machine learning and self-learning systems.
It's amazing.
What are they going to learn?
It is, but I think it's a little frightening. I mean,
It is. Well, it should be frightening.
It is frightening. Well, let's discuss the short-term consequences of AI. I mean, here are some of the ones that were in your book. You said 1, social disintegration; 2, large-scale job loss; 3, rise in inequality and poverty; 4, violence and vicious competition for everything. I mean, briefly tell us why you think that will happen.
I think you know, I hate drawing analogies to there was in the 1960s there was a series of experiments run by John Calhoun at the National Institute of Mental Health, and the basics of the experiment was you take a squared off area and you build a mouse utopia. You give them all the food they need, all the space that they need within that enclosed area, and you satisfy all of their needs. And what we saw in that, and again, you have to be super careful about drawing these analogies, but the typical pattern was an immediate, at the first stage of the experiment, the mice were happy and they were breeding and they were creating and they were getting territory. Then they started getting aggressive. And then they started losing mice are very social animals. That's why it was chosen for the mouse utopia experiment. And you started seeing a breakdown. After the mice population, after the society reached a certain level, the socialization of the mice started breaking down, and you saw massive aggressiveness. You saw some mice withdrawing completely.
Why was that? Because they were not free to really roam. I mean, they were enclosed. They were rebelling against that. Why would they?
No one can really tell. It's a dangerous analogy, but it's something what we're seeing in. What you see in some human societies, when you lose the ability to strive, when you lose the ability to basically compete because others have already gotten the control of the relevant resources, and you can't break into that market, you can't break into that society, you can't break into that
So there's no
group.
opportunity. There's
no
opportunity. Yeah.
And what you see is either withdrawing or aggressiveness, and that's one of the great dangers that we see in this book.
That's been one of your lack of opportunity has been one of the Western European countries' problems for their young people.
Right.
Because they're migrating all over the place because they can't break through what is fundamentally an aristocratic system in terms of an old boy network. And
right, and they can't get ahead. That's right.
But I want to add one thing, Lois. Tim Berners-Lee is knighted by Queen Elizabeth. Is credited with creating the internet, the algorithms that created the internet. he has come out recently, he's launched a new program trying to counter the effects of it. He says, we created this to help democracies become real democracies, human interaction, discussion, discourse. And he said, but it's had just the opposite effect. It has had this viciousness that we're talking about, maliciousness, and this trashing of society, and people at each other's throats. We now are filled with lynch mobs, of internet lynch mobs. If they don't like anything you said, they're very well organized, coordinated. They will attack anybody and try to destroy them. And they're doing a pretty good job at destroying people's careers and lives.
Yes, it's awful. Well, how concerned should Americans be about China's plan for world domination in artificial intelligence, which is what you wrote about? Yeah. You wrote that China just doesn't have the single fastest supercomputer in the world. It now has a list of the 500 fastest computers in the world. 500. And I read in your book that there is a massive trade imbalance between the United States and China and the EU over the past 6 years, which represented a total of approximately $3 trillion surplus flowing.
It goes beyond that.
Yeah. So China will soon be #1 in the world, correct?
It depends on what you're evaluating. So, but they are driving. Xi Jinping he has a plan to be dominant by 2025 for one thing. Another by militarily dominant, at least in the Pacific region. They're developing all kinds of weapon system, autonomous weapon systems, and that surplus, that trade surplus, we have been funding their expansion.
Yes.
I mean, our own dollars have been going. China is not nearly as strong in economically as everybody thinks they are, but they're still powerful. But they're way less than the U.S. and even Western Europe. But they are a danger because they are so driven by it, and they are about to lead the world in quantum computing research, which takes this capability of AI into levels that we can't even imagine.
We can't even comprehend, probably. Well, then you think about the weapon systems, like the Predator drones launched from Air Force carriers carry 2,000 kilos of explosives, which are run by artificial intelligence. And the most difficult landing strips for planes are Air Force carriers in rough oceans. I mean, is there a chance that these drones can explode into a multi-million-dollar aircraft carrier and kill all aboard?
Oh, they're pretty. The carriers are resilient. They might not be able to destroy it, but one of the things that's really dangerous here is that they're developing self-thinking and self-controlled and targeting drones and drone swarms. So and the risk is that somebody could hack them, and so we think we're in control of it, but somebody could actually hack them, put signals into the drones. That's something they have to worry about, and they would attack the wrong targets.
Well, do we have a system to check on this? I mean, who knows? Right?
It's in this field. It's all a constantly moving target, and so you think you have something, but somebody else has just figured out what you think you have and developed something that undermines that.
Ooh. Well, what are the skills that people need going forward when the workplace is so drastically changed by artificial intelligence? I mean, you wrote that digital literacy is the technical skill that most millennials possess to some degree, but that critical thinking, creativity, pattern recognition, and others is what's needed in the future. I mean, describe why and how our universities are failing us regarding critical thinking.
In law schools, we typically talk about trying to teach students to think like a lawyer. And what we really mean, probably the largest component of that is in fact critical thinking. It's the ability to take in a set of facts and evaluate the truth or falsity, evaluate the persuasiveness, evaluate any responses that you might have to those facts. And the facts that you see in law are often unstructured in the sense that they're not presented in the form of a structured database, but rather you're taking in not just a perception about the world that's objective, but also emotional inputs. You're subjectively analyzing how the person across the table from you is responding or is communicating.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
I think those skills are going to be extraordinarily important. I think that AI systems can in fact perceive some of the social cues. Are they going to be as good as a human being? I don't know. A colleague of mine Dan Katz at Chicago Kent University once is very big on the idea of humans plus machines can be a much more powerful combination than either can separately. And in some cases, I think that may be right. A human being can, a lawyer, for example, can perceive things that a machine may not, but the machine can make the lawyer better at doing the lawyer's job, more organized, and may see things that we miss.
Well, that's interesting to hear. Well, you wrote that OECD analysts warn that robots and AI will eliminate almost 1 in 6 jobs. I mean, could there be a 50% job loss worldwide by 2030 because of artificial intelligence? Is that possible?
Yes.
That's incredible. Well, how come we're not hearing about this?
Because they don't want, the people, there is such a pro-AI robotics movement now by businesses, even some governments.
Manufacturing.
Banks, the whole range of things. And researchers, university researchers in technology, whose future they hope to get a patent that will make them $1 billion.
Oh my gosh!
So there are all kinds of, and it's an ego thing. Universities compete for the best researchers and everything, and then you have to produce.
Okay.
And so the whole incentive structure on the people who really are pushing this is against being honest about what's going on. That's why we wrote this book.
It's worth noting also that this has been happening. By some estimates, 80 to 85% of the job losses in manufacturing that occurred in the early 2000s were actually due. We paid attention to offshoring, we paid attention to globalization.
Yes.
But what we didn't pay attention to is the fact that 80 to 85% of jobs that were lost because of automation. And that's something that no one thinks about that, because automation makes it more efficient, and that's a plus. We like using more resources more efficiently. We like using people more efficiently and being able to take advantage of their talents. But what gets hidden is that there is a very real cost. Are those jobs being replaced? Some of them are.
Yes.
Are they being replaced with the same jobs? No. Are they high quality jobs? Not always.
That's right. That's right. And then let's switch back to the Chinese. I mean, they're using AI to monitor citizens' behavior, to keep watch on them through cameras and facial recognition tracking systems, and they've begun a system to implement a system to determine an individual's social credit as a condition to whether that person has a right to travel outside of their town. I mean, I think this was really, really spooky, and this technology is being exported to other countries, right?
Yes, but it's worse than that. I just read a report on Xi Jinping, and has a mode of thought that the Chinese academics, governmental people, you can't even be a religion. You have to tell the Chinese Communist Party you can't be a member of the party if you have a religious belief. They kick you out. He has this very rigid structure, philosophy, and ideology. Now, what just came out was that he also has a program where people are supposed to read about where China should go under Xi Jinping. It turns out that they just reported when they created this application, they put in a back door.
Okay.
And that the result is that they can now access every single thing on 100 million Chinese people's computers after they have logged into this system. So facial recognition, the social credit thing, where that country is going is mind-boggling from the perspective of anybody who believes in democracy.
Or privacy. In other words, that's the other thing that I think Americans are very concerned.
There is no privacy.
There is no privacy, right?
Jim Comey said that 2 years ago. He said, you're silly if you think there's privacy in America.
Yeah, that's right. You are silly. And it's depressing, because does your book point out that what can we do to prevent the loss of privacy through these machines? Can we do anything?
I don't think it's possible.
I don't think it's possible.
It's too late?
I think it's too late.
The
advantages of having a smartphone, the advantages of being hooked into a social media network, the advantages of being able to search on Google. Once you buy into that, once you participate in that, you are releasing so much more information than you could even if you think you're being anonymous. The data, the movements that you generate through use of the basic network systems that we use today, Facebook, Google, YouTube, Twitter, any type of social media, those movements generate patterns that allow the other side to basically determine everything about you. They create an electronic doppelganger, a double of you.
But in this instance, it's the companies like Amazon and Google that know everything about you, not the government so much, right?
They sell it. The relationships between Google and Amazon and the U.S. government and Google and China are very
So
close.
they're selling that information
absolutely.
to governments,
Absolutely.
to our government. Oh.
Remember Cambridge Analytica in the last election, and that's just a very tiny example of how they use this information to shape messages and manipulate us.
Well, that is of concern. You wrote a chapter about the 6 case studies, and the first case study dealt with the millions of jobs that are going to be lost to autonomous or self-driving cars,
In the
trucks,
US.
and buses in the U.S. And what can be done? When will this happen? And what can be done to retrain the other people that are losing their jobs? Right?
Uber has a major investment and they're road testing for the last 2 years autonomous cars. I mean, so they're already doing that with their model. I mean, so that's going that way. But the estimates, to put a number on it, the ones I saw were 4.3 million jobs. And then go back to the idea that there is a real uptick in suicides by cab drivers, particularly in New York.
Yes,
New York,
I read
because their system is falling apart due to Uber. Now Uber is going to fall apart in terms of human employment because it's going toward autonomous vehicles.
Yeah. And then you wrote that that there are 72,000 Americans over the age of 100 years. I mean, and then you said that number could reach 1 million by 2050. That's a lot of old people. I mean, a lot. It's amazing.
Same in Japan.
And you wrote that the problems arise when you have a shrinking workforce that cannot foot the pension bill. So, what are we? How can the system keep going after we switch to artificial intelligence?
Currently, our entire tax system is based on, or the vast majority of our tax system focuses on the event of income. When I get paid, that's a taxable event.
Yes.
But there are other ways to tax. Bernie Sanders is out there talking about a wealth tax. That has its own problems, but it's a different way of looking at tax.
Well, is that a way? Is that a way to get more money from companies like Amazon? And I can't get over Amazon doesn't pay any taxes, right? I mean, or all these offshore people with the very expensive companies that are offshore and
Well, it may be that the tax incident we need to look at is AI and robotics itself. That the productivity of that system, of the use of that system, maybe that's the proper place to look for taxation.
Well, I have to say that I'm so sorry our time has come to an end in the studio, and it's been such an incredibly interesting subject to discuss with both of you. And thank you so much for being guests on our program.
Thank you.
Well, gentlemen, please tell our viewers where they can find your book in Arlington.
It can be found online in Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and the publisher's website is claritypress.com.
Very good. Well, thank you again for being guest authors on our program. And thank you so much for joining us. Please join us again next month for a new edition of the Bookman's Corner. I'm Lois Lindstrom.